I'm going to tell you exactly what I did to overcome every single addiction that I had. Once I understood addiction and what it was, I applied the same thing to every single thing. Understanding this didn't only just allow me to overcome my addiction, but it gave me such a strong sense of power and validation and peace. Most of the time, the issue we have with addiction isn't just the substance and just the addiction itself. It's us beating ourselves up about it, whether it's consciously or unconsciously. But let's jump straight into it. Addiction is not what you or most of society believe it is. I'm going to tell you the story about what I went through and exactly what I did. And by telling you that, it's going to give you so much more insight into any challenges you may have currently with any addiction you may have. Now look, we can be addicted to pretty much anything. We can have an addiction to alcohol, to weed, smoking, sex, any sort of drugs. It can be addiction to shopping, addiction to food, coffee. It can be an addiction to work or an addiction to the gym. It can be any sort of addiction. First off the bat, I'm going to tell you exactly what addiction is. Addiction is a way of coping with emotional pain. Now, that doesn't mean that whatever you are addicted to won't give you a chemical imbalance or a physiological effect. But the reason we start whatever we become addicted to is because of emotional pain. And yes, we can continue it because of the emotional pain, as well as our bodies now being reliant on the thing that we are addicted to. This is in no way a video to try and suggest that you shouldn't be addicted or that you're doing wrong and bad for being addicted. And I know that sounds completely outrageous. How could I possibly saying you're not wrong for being addicted to these horrible, terrible things? They've ruined families and they ruin relationships. Yeah, they do. But it doesn't mean you're wrong for being in emotional pain and needing to numb yourself from that pain. So personally, me, I've been addicted to alcohol. I've been addicted to weed. I've been addicted to food. And I've been addicted to people. Like, I literally needed certain people around me. Otherwise, I wouldn't feel okay. And before I even understood what it was to even become self-aware, I was just living life the best way that I could. But unfortunately, the best way that we can without understanding what self-awareness is and trying to raise our self-awareness is pretty much living life in reactive mode. So I was reacting to my environment, reacting to how I felt, which is again very normal. Throughout the years, I've been addicted to one thing and sometimes it's switched over to something else, and I've been having multiple stuff that I've been addicted to at the same time as well. A few years ago, I thought life was going great. Before meeting my previous partner, I'd made the transition from drinking to smoking weed all the time. I used to work as a software engineer and work in a different town. So I'd go to work, come back, and as soon as I'd be home, then I would get high because I could, because it was an option and because it was there. You know, and if I keep asking myself, well, why did I do it? At that stage, I wasn't aware enough to understand what was going on. But let's say even at that stage, why did I do it? Again, I'm not trying to label it as bad, we're just exploring the why. And the best answer that I could give you in that moment is because it feels good. Because I want to. It feels good. It feels better than when I'm not high. My sober state doesn't feel as good as when I'm high. And you could look at this and go, well, yeah, obviously, when you get high, it will alter your state to a more desirable one. That makes perfect sense. So that stage of my life was kind of like very routine-y. Everything was going okay-ish. And then I met my, not now, but previous partner. And throughout that relationship, I would also get high. We would drink alcohol as well. And my diet was extremely different to the way it is now. So this again was like a regular routine and we were just getting on with life until the relationship ended. And once that relationship ended, that knocked me into a whirlwind of pain. I went full steam ahead in so much of my traumatic emotional wounds. They were all firing off at the same time. I remember there was this one time where I was just sat on a bed and I found myself actually weeping. I didn't understand it in the moment. I didn't even realize what was going on. It was the next day that I realized that, oh wow, I was weeping last night. I was in so much pain and I found myself going straight to the weed again. And I was in the center of all my pain in that moment. So I wasn't really thinking. I was just reacting and trying to just feel some sort of normal or trying to feel good however I could, whatever that was. After a while, I looked back on that moment and I learned something from it. I learned that when I was in more pain, I was having more weed. I'd be high, but then I'd also try to get higher. I never really did that. That was never really like a goal of mine or anything that I ever wanted to do. It wasn't like, let's see how high I can get. But in that moment, I was going crazy with it. Now, this is many years ago. Now, when I started my healing journey, I started learning how to heal, what healing even meant, started developing on myself, raising my self-awareness. The more I raised my self-awareness, the more I learned what was actually happening. And what was actually happening was that I was in a reactive mode of just continuously trying to come out of my pain. pain, to escape my pain. And I'd learned that weed or anything else that I was addicted to made me feel better. It made me feel better. So if I'm in a lot of pain, I don't like this pain, I want to feel better. So I went to the thing that made me feel better. Now it will work. I will have this thing, whatever it is, whether it's weed, alcohol, sex, any sort of drugs, food, the gym, work, whatever it is, makes me feel better than when I am sober and alone with my thoughts. That's when I realized what addiction truly is. Addiction to anything is a way of me or anyone else escaping my pain. What happens if I don't escape my pain? What would happen if I didn't have something that I was using to escape my pain? Then I would be in continuous pain. What's that look like? Fucking painful, excruciatingly painful. And I realized, I was like, well, why would anyone want to be in the pain? It doesn't make sense. Everyone who is addicted to something is addicted, which is in another way of saying is reliant on this substance or this behavior or whatever it is. I am reliant on this thing because it takes me away from my pain. Now here's the really challenging thought, because this is gonna go against so much programming that society has, and it's gonna really challenge you, which is amazing. But if something is taking me away from my pain, is it wrong? Is it wrong for me to use the thing that's taking me away from my pain? Let me give you an analogy. Let's say you're climbing a tree and you fall off the tree and you break your legs. And in that moment, you are in pain. Your legs are broken, you're screaming in pain. Yes, this is physical trauma. The stuff we're addicted to, that the pain we're trying to get rid of, is emotional trauma. You can't see emotional trauma, but you can see physical trauma. But let's continue on with the analogy. If I fall off a tree and break my legs and I'm screaming in pain, and then in that moment, someone comes up and gives me morphine, and I'm like, oh, fuck, I don't feel the pain anymore. Do you think anyone will come up in that moment and go, hey, you shouldn't have morphine. You shouldn't have the thing that is keeping you away from your pain? Is it wrong to have the morphine in that moment if you're in that much pain? Oh yeah, well, drinking alcohol is completely different. It's not like morphine when you fall out of a tree and break your leg. Yeah, because the falling out of a tree and break your leg is physical and you can see it. You can't see the emotional pain. The emotional pain doesn't go away on its own. In fact, it gets worse and it gets heavier and it gets louder. Now, I'm not trying to advocate anyone to go and drink alcohol or to smoke weed or to do anything else that would be unhealthy for you. But at the beginning of this video, I told you how I got out of it, what I went through, what I learned to be able to get to the other side. And it starts with understanding this, understanding that the substance that you are using is what's keeping you away from your pain. And if you keep seeing that as wrong, then you're beating yourself up for needing that painkiller. And if you keep making yourself wrong, you cannot get to a place where you can resolve your addiction. Resolving your addiction doesn't mean forcing yourself to stop having whatever you're having, because more often than not, if we, like, let's say we're addicted to alcohol, we will stop ourselves from having alcohol and then we'll move to weed, and then we'll stop ourselves from having weed and then we'll move to food, and then we'll even stop doing that and we might move to the gym, might go to the gym all hours of the day, might overdo it in the gym. I'm not saying go drink alcohol and go have weed. Everything's okay. No, I'm just bringing your awareness to the fact that when we are reliant on substances, it is because we have pain that we are not aware of. We have pain that we're not looking at. We have pain that we don't understand. The substance itself is not the issue. The substance is the result of the issue. The issue is the emotional pain that we have. And there is a way of integrating and healing that pain from within. It starts by validating the reason you are in pain. And the way we validate the reason we are in pain is by not making it wrong. And no one else needs to believe you. No one else needs to agree with you. It doesn't matter if all of your family and all of your friends are like, no, that's wrong. How can you possibly say that it's not the wrong decision when you're making all these choices, when it's hurting and upsetting all these people? I get it. I really, really get it. But this is for you internally in your world. No one else. If someone else can be there with you along the way, great. If they can help you along this path in this way to validate the reason that you're in pain and this is why you're doing this, fantastic. But more often than not, most, if not all the people in your life can't. We start by validating and accepting that internally I know that this isn't wrong. This is just me having morphine when I fall out of a tree and break my leg. Let's continue on with that. Now, if I fall out of a tree and break my leg and I have morphine and morphine works, great, fantastic. At that stage, morphine cannot be my long-term solution to my broken legs. This doesn't mean your emotional pain means you're broken emotionally. It's just a visual representation of what we're talking about pain and what we're using to help that pain. So I can't just from that moment go home and then just have a continuous amount of morphine that will keep me away from my pain, because then my legs won't heal the way that they're meant to heal. And every time the morphine wears off, I need to then have morphine again. So I need to continuously keep making sure that I top my house up with morphine. It's always there. It's always in the cupboard. So what do we do for the injured legs if we fall out of a tree? We'll go to the hospital. We may need surgery to get the bones back in place, but more often than not surgery. We put a cast on it. That cast would remain there for, let's say, about 6 weeks, depending on how bad the break is. And then after the cast comes off, we may need to go to physio. The physio itself is to start strengthening the muscle around the area that will eventually get us back to a place where we can walk again the way that we used to before having the accident of falling out of the tree. So there is a way of getting to a place where I'm not in pain without the morphine. Your emotional body, your emotional state is exactly the same. There is a way of getting back to a place where in your sober state and with the thoughts that you have in your sober state, you don't need to escape your pain. So how do we do this? The pain is there. Just like falling out of a tree and breaking my legs, if I just ignore my broken legs and pretend that they're not there and just keep popping morphine, and then I just get on with my day, not knowing what's going on, and I struggle to walk and I keep falling over, I'm like, why can't I walk? What's going on? It's because I'm not giving my focus or attention to the cause, to the actual pain itself. Why is it even there? Why am I feeling this pain? Where's it coming from? Oh, it's coming from my legs. I need to give it attention. How do I give it attention? I go to the hospital and go through all that. This is the same with your emotional state. How do I get to a place of not feeling whatever feeling I feel that makes me go towards the thing that I'm addicted to? Maybe I'm sat on my own watching TV at home and I feel the need to go towards drinking alcohol, or I feel the need to go and get certain types of food, or I feel the need to have weed, or I feel the need to, if I don't get up and go to the gym, then something bad's gonna happen. I'm gonna fall behind. I'm not gonna look how I should look in order to get me love, in order for me to be accepted or desired. What we do is we react. We react to what we feel. I need to go get it. Okay. In that moment, become aware that you're feeling something. What is it that I'm feeling? What is this? This is my pain, but it's masked now. It's a masked emotion. Any masked emotion brings up the sensation of anxiety. If I feel anxious, I'm feeling anxious. What is feeling anxious? Feeling anxious is your body's sensation of saying that there's something under this. So what you need to do is you need to sit with it. You need to stay there. When you become aware that whatever I'm feeling is making me go towards what I want, the thing that I'm addicted to, you need to make a choice in that moment. That choice is that I'm going to sit right here with this feeling. I'm going to sit with whatever is coming up. Now you can do that by closing your eyes if you need to. Is this hard? It can be. It absolutely can be. Now it might be fear that's coming up. It might be too much, and that's okay as well. I'm not telling you to jump to the deep end of your absolute fear and keep yourself in a place of pain, but there has to be a level of starting to move forward towards the pain and not always choosing the thing that masks you from the pain. Any and all addiction is to escape emotional pain. If you're watching this and like, hang on, I'm addicted to this, I know that, but it's not from pain, it's because you're not aware of the pain. So we need to sit with it. Now, if you can sit with it for like 10 seconds this time, great. And then the next time, all right, another 10 seconds, 20 seconds. Next time, 30 seconds. Time after that, a minute. And just keep increasing it more and more. Start to feel whatever it is. Try to put a name on the emotion that you're feeling. What is this? Is this fear? Maybe it's despair. Maybe it's the sensation of anxiety, and under that sensation of anxiety, because I've sat with it, I've stayed with the anxiety to allow the mask of anxiety to dissipate and show me that under it is actually anger. And under that anger is despair and fear. The more and more you sit with it, the more and more you give it attention. Just like your broken legs. If if you give that attention, you are getting closer to being able to walk again like you were able to before the accident of falling out of the tree. We need to sit with our pain to understand it. Understand that this is a part of me that's in pain. It's not just an emotion. The emotion is being carried by a part of myself, and through the feeling system that I have in my human being, that's how this part of myself is trying to communicate with me. But what I've been doing up until now is I've been going towards a substance that quietens down this part of myself. Now, along with understanding my emotional pain, and yes, this is where it comes from, depending on if I've been addicted to something, that's changed the chemical structure in my body. My body is completely chemically different now because it's reliant on this external substance that I've been putting in myself. So not only do I now have to go towards my pain to understand it, I also have to work through the pain of taking myself off the substance. Now, I'm not saying go cold turkey with this. I'm not saying instantly stop it. For me, I reduced it until I was at a comfortable level of being able to cut it out. But I was able to get there because I was doing the inner work. So then the feelings that came up that always pushed me towards it were nowhere near as strong. So it's about doing them both at the same time. Maybe reducing as well as doing the inner work to understand this part of myself. Depending on how addicted you are to the substance and depending on the experiences that you had in your life, this can be extremely challenging. But you have a choice. You're watching this video, you've clicked on it because you're at the stage where you want to make that difference. That difference only comes through choice. It doesn't come through someone giving you a pill. It doesn't come from someone else doing this for you. You can get help and you can get guidance, absolutely, but that help and guidance is to help and guide you to do it. So it's a choice you need to make. Am I going to keep doing what I've been doing? The choices that I've been making are taking me away from my pain. Has that worked up until now? Yes, it may have evolved one addiction to another addiction, or I may have gone from drinking alcohol all the time to completely rejecting these parts of myself to the degree where I can't even hear them or feel them. And my addiction is binge watching TV, because every time I watch TV, every time I listen to something whilst I go to sleep, every time I maybe have a podcast on or a TV show when I'm in the shower, maybe when I'm doing the housework, I can't do anything with just my thoughts. I have to have something on in the background. That is also an addiction. That is also keeping me away from my thoughts, and that is also keeping me away from my pain. So I need to make a choice. Look, most of society doesn't understand addiction. I'm being serious. Most of society does not understand addiction. Society actually praises some addictions and looks down at other ones. If you are drinking alcohol, if you're smoking weed, if you're on any sort of drug, even possibly coffee, depending on how much you're having, those are seen as like bad addictions, and no, you are really out of control and you're bad for that. But then if you're addicted to the gym or addicted to your job, then you're praised for it. Wow, you are so committed. You are so disciplined and committed. So the messed up thing is, let's say if we are addicted to the gym or our work, we actually get praised for that. So the thing that we need anyway, which is acceptance and validation, we're actually getting for being addicted to this thing. But that doesn't mean that everyone that works hard or everyone that goes to the gym is addicted to it. It's not what I'm saying. But those are forms of addictions, and it requires the exploration within the individual to understand that if it's happening because of an addiction or not. So there is no like brush that you can just brush everyone with. That's my impression of a brush. It's the choice you have to make. It is going to be a challenging path, but that's the only path there is. The more you sit with the pain, the more you understand it, the more you allow yourself to feel these suppressed emotions and release them. And you can even go further and understand and communicate with this part of yourself to learn what the unmet needs are. And you can meet these needs in a state of imagination. This is how we validate ourselves, is we allow ourselves to feel what we're feeling without needing anyone else to approve of what we're feeling. To learn is to go through the same situation or be in the same environment and make a different choice. If the same thing keeps happening over and over again, we're not learning from it. There is not one human being on this planet that doesn't have the ability to overcome an addiction, be able to get to their true authentic happiness from just being in their sober state. A human being's sober state is an innately healthy one. As an emotional being in a healthy state, which is your natural state, that actually feels better than any of these substances or any of the behaviors that we are addicted to do in the moments when we're trying to escape our pain. I remember months after I quit weed, I was at my friend's house and he was like, oh, there's some weed. And I was like, you know what? It's been a while. I've not had it in a long time. And I was like, oh, let's just try it tonight. You know, tonight's a kind of a night where we're just chilling. And I actually felt much worse. But not only did I feel much worse than my sober state because I've been doing the inner work, but I realized that feeling worse was actually what I used to think felt better. So my natural healthy state took me to a place of feeling better than I ever did when I was escaping my pain. So even if you're worried about, well, going through this won't actually make me feel as good, no, it'll make you feel better. You have to go towards these parts of you. Now, understandably, going towards these parts of you can seem extremely scary, and that is completely understandable. Everything that I put out there on the internet is to help you along this journey, to be able to teach you how to do this, because honestly, I remember when I was trying to learn how to do this and I couldn't find any basic stuff online anywhere. And I was going insane. I was going nuts because I kind of understood, all right, I need to do this, but how do I do this? How do I actually, like, what are the skills? What are the tips? What are the tools to be able to do this? What does this mean? What if this happens? Is that good or bad? How do I even communicate with this part of myself? What does shadow work mean? What is the inner child? Like, all of these things that I'm trying to learn about myself that I don't get. There's so many videos that I have on my YouTube channel that explain so many different aspects of yourself so you can understand and learn what to do. Addiction doesn't mean that you're weak, doesn't mean that you're not capable. It doesn't mean that other people are better, because I promise you, everyone is addicted to something. Addiction is such a human thing. So many people that are criticizing you about being addicted to whatever you are also addicted to their phones. They're also addicted to coffee or any sort of caffeine. They might be also addicted to certain foods. But because society doesn't look down at these things, they're treated different. But it's the same thing. The people that are addicted to phones and food and the gym and work is also because of emotional pain. It's time to become aware of how the self works, and you are at a place now where you can make that decision and you can get to where you want to get to. If I can, you can. I promise you, I didn't think I could. Use me as your testimonial that you can. Sometimes the best thing is to live in reality. And the reality of this can be that it's going to be challenging, but that doesn't mean it's undoable. And the outcome is much, much better than the current state that you are in. I'll see you next time.